Okay. Call the meeting to order. A pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a meeting of the Hillsdale Borough Council on the 6th day of February, 2018. Notice of the time and place of this meeting has been provided to the Ridgewood News and the Record. A copy was posted on the bulletin board outside of this meeting room and provided to any interested parties. Please notify the municipal clerk for any disability requirements necessary for attendance at mayor and council meetings. The fire exits are located through the double doors to your left. Please silence all cell phones. Do I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember DeRosa?
Here.
Councilmember Horvath?
Present.
Councilmember Carthage? Councilmember Lundy.
Here.
Councilmember Segalas? Council President Pizzella?
Okay. We have no appointments or oaths of office. The next item on the agenda is we have a closed session scheduled. Mr. Attorney, would you like to introduce that?
As you're all aware, we are entitled under the Open Public Meetings Act to go into closed session to discuss certain matters. We have a resolution before us, Resolution 18039, to go into closed session for the purposes of discussing litigation, negotiations, or matters otherwise within attorney-client privilege, specifically floodplain acquisition, waste management, and the library. We may also at some point be discussing some personnel issues. The time for which we will be enclosed would be approximately an hour. We are following this up with a fairly lengthy regular meeting. And if it is the pleasure of the chair to ask for a motion on that resolution, you certainly can do so.
I'll ask for a motion to go to closed.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No. Okay. We'll go to closed. Okay. Okay. Yep.
Mayor, Council, good evening. We are back from our closed session. We extended the time there a little bit. We are now at 7:45. We are well into the time period of the regular meeting. If someone would like to offer a motion there, it's your pleasure to seek such a motion to reconvene the regular meeting. That would be in order at this time.
Motion to reconvene. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All
Back in the
opposed?
regular public-
Very good. So we pick up our agenda at council remarks at this point? Any council remarks? I'm not sure. Yeah, well, this says council remarks. Skip over that. We'll do that. A little bit of a duplication there. No presentations are on the agenda. No promotions or proclamations. We'll move into our initial public comment period, time limited for new topics only, one topic per speaker. Motion to open to initial public?
Motion.
Second? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we're in initial public comment. Seeing no one, motion to close?
Motion. Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to approval of the minutes. We have closed session minutes for January 7th, closed session minutes for January 16th, the CNADA meeting minutes for January 7th, and the reorganization meeting minutes for January 7th. Do I have a motion to approve these?
Motion. Second.
Roll call vote?
Councilmember Horvath?
Yes.
Councilmember Carthage?
Yes.
Councilmember Lundy.
Yes.
Councilmember Segalas? Council President Pizzella? Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on, we have professionals' reports and monthly department head reports. I see we have the chief here, Chief Frank Avila.
Mayor and Council, Bob Francavilla, Police Chief. During the month of let's start over. During the month of January, there were 93 dispatching shifts, all were covered by non-sport personnel, so no overtime. In January, there were 222 motor vehicle stops, which resulted in 111 summonses issued. We had 20 criminal arrests, and I want to thank the Fire Department and Ambulance Corps for inviting the members of the Hillsdale Police Department to their installation dinners. It was well received. Officer Sayers completed 3 medical callbacks. That's when he attends a medical call or whatnot, and he follows up with them to make sure the resident's doing okay. So I think that's a good little thing for Officer Sayers to do. And I'd like to thank all of EMS for their response on that serious motor vehicle crash on Kinnicamack Road 2 weeks ago. The swift response saved the life of the driver, which I think will be recognized at the next council meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and lastly, according to the Westwood Patch, Hillsdale was named the 3rd safest community in the United States, which is, I'm pretty proud of.
Based on what, FBI statistics, or?
Yeah, it's Uniform Crime Report.
And, also, would you,
National Council for Home Safety.
I'm not sure about that, but I know, it's for communities under 30,000 residents,
Yeah.
so.
and could you say a few words about the recognition that's going to be coming our way on February 21st, I believe it is, down at the county?
Yes, the freeholder Sullivan is going to recognize all of EMS for the motor vehicle crash that occurred 2 weeks ago, where they cut the driver out of the car and saved his life when the car was in flames. It's a pretty serious motor vehicle crash. It started basically at Lawrence Street and ended up by Kinnicamack Road, almost 700 feet of damage. You might have seen it on the news as well.
Yeah, yeah,
And so
yeah.
I want to kudos to the fire department.
Which is why we're gonna be
EMS
recognizing them next
and the 2
week.
officers on scene, yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Any questions for the chief? Thank you, chief. Thank you. Fire department is not here tonight. Borough engineer report.
Good evening, Council. Good to see everybody tonight. We've got a number of projects ongoing with you, obviously. I'll just go through them quickly with you. The grant for the Banshall, they haven't got the money yet. We're going to be advancing that into design and hopefully get a contract out in the springtime, because I know you want to get that done actually by late spring. So we're going to move that ahead and get that bid package out as soon as the money comes in from the county. Public service, I just bring this in, substation upgrades. They're continuing to work on their new GIS building, which is going to house all their equipment. And they're also continuing with those decorative panels along Prospect Avenue. If you look at that photograph there, when they first came to the planning board, that wall is going to be just solid concrete. And you can see what the planning board beat them into submission to, asked them to provide more architecturally sensitive panels, and that's what we've gotten actually. And those panels are going to be embellished with landscaping and ornamental lights. It's really going to be nice, really a nice streetscape once it's done. But you can also see behind there the height of their equipment. These walls are about 22 foot high, and you can see how high their equipment is behind there that we were trying to hide. We're working with Patty on the swimming pool enclosure to get some specifications done for her. Yes, sir.
Is that going to extend over that current wall now?
That's as high as it goes. That is a secondary wall on top of the lower wall. Yeah, that's because that's really for blast protection, because there's transformers behind there in case they were to...
If anyone hasn't taken a walk by there, you should, because it does look, it's quite different, and it gives a nicer look to the whole thing.
And that's going to be carried around up the street to Eon Fitness, who's doing their work, and hopefully around the corner down Patterson Street for the multifamily. The whole area now will be tied together with lighting and landscaping, so it's nice, the whole corner of the industrial area. Stony Brook Swim Club enclosure, I'm meeting with Patty actually tomorrow, weather permitting. I want to talk to her about some of the specifications I'm putting together with her. Nothing new with the public service. Underground work on the hill. The barrier ramps, staff is designing those ramps in-house. Groundwater excavation in Patterson Street, we completed that probably the 2 coldest days of the year. We excavated a hole. We found the old clay pipe was broken in 2 places. And so what happened is groundwater would come down the pipe, and it started to just fill, and it finally came out of the ground. There was a blockage. You're looking downstream here, underneath where that machine is. The blockage was cleared by the DPW. The pipe is now cleared. We repaired the pipe, so now the water will continue to run in and go into the main system and go out to the brook. We did TV inspect this old clay pipe for a couple hundred feet, and it doesn't go anywhere. It's just an old clay pipe. There's a rock at the end of it, sort of plugging it up, and it was dry. There's no connections to it. It might have been built back in the 30s or 40s when they were originally to put homes up here. Maybe they were going to do something with it, but it really doesn't serve any function. It does collect groundwater. You do the joints, and that's what was coming out of the ground. It was coming down the hill, and then it would just perk out. That's all it was. There's really no drainage system connected to it.
What was done to rectify that? What was done to eliminate that or rectify it?
Well, the groundwater, we have to continue to collect it. And now it basically collects the water and goes to another drainage system is what it does. Yeah, but there was a blockage, so that wasn't getting out, so that's been clear. So Public Works gave us a lot of help up there, as well as the contractor.
That all stemmed from a resident complaint here one night, that's what we started looking at.
This goes back, John, I've been with this for a couple of years, yeah. This old clay pipe has been a mystery for a long time. We finally TV inspected it. We know it doesn't go anyplace. That was it. There's no stream here, though. It's strictly groundwater is all it was. Nothing mysterious about it. The ADA bathrooms in the train station, we got our permits from DCA today. We actually got them sent up by New Jersey Transit. The contractor is aware that he's got to start moving. We have to be finished by April 1st, and we will be. The contractor's already bought his materials, and he's mobilizing. John has had the rooms cleared out for our contractor to use during construction, and we're ready to go. We have our permits in hand. He's set to go, the contractor, so we'll...
April 1st, did you say?
That is we have to be finished and done by April 1st. And build. We're going to build out as well. We're going to have to get the contractor paid and then bill us county for our money reimbursement. The bandshell repairs, we're also advancing that work, as I said before, to take care of the masonry work over there. We also applied this year for more money to fix up replace some of the tables, the paver pathways, and some other work there as well. So that's in the open space grants going forward in 2018, 2019. And so we got some CBGB money for the handicap ramps, which my staff's working on as well. Those will be built come the springtime when the weather is better. We're not using salt anymore on the roadway system. DOT, we haven't heard yet on the grant applications. They're down in Trenton right now in our final selection with the department and the commissioner and the governor's office. And the open space memorial...
But, Chris, before you go on...
Yes, sir.
The grants that we are requesting for, from the DOT, they're significant in terms of dollar amounts. Are we likely to get any of this? Or
You probably get about half of the grant request.
Okay, that's good, actually.
We always, try to go for a little more gusto. We know that they basically limit it what they obligate to each town. So yes, and I do have more money this year because of the tax. The gas tax is now back funded the trust.
And particularly, my attention is drawn to the pedestrian improvements on Piermont between Kinderkamack Road and Magnolia. I've had a number of residents tell me about the dangers of that for the high school students as they walk to and from the school. The sidewalk is only on the south side. There's nothing on the north. And that's where the residents believe there needs to be, a sidewalk. And I guess this is going to, if this is approved, this will start that process in motion.
It would put the whole sidewalk in, essentially.
It would.
Yeah, for the one block.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, I think that's a great thing.
And, both schools did provide me with endorsement letters, which we put in the application as well. I had those schools in the endorsement letters, the high school as well as the elementary school. So we had that in there as well.
Apparently, residents have been making, I didn't know this until during the campaign of 3 years ago, and then again, it was reiterated to me in this past fall. Residents along that street have said this continuing. They've been apparently at this for a long, long time. One resident claiming that he had actually pointed out the dangers like a decade ago. So I'm glad that this is being done. This is a good thing.
Yeah. So we're hopeful, I can't say.
Right.
These are three different programs within DOT. They're not all in the same grant pot. So hopefully we'll get one of these funded, if not a couple.
Okay.
So,
I cut you off. I'm sorry.
no, that's fine. And that downtown park, the Veterans Park, I know that past Mayor Frank had started the ball rolling on this. I'm not sure who's heading this up, those memorials down there, but, the money will be available come, the springtime. So I don't know.
Which memorial?
The memorial that he wants to put downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we probably should start motivating that a little bit, the designer on how it's going to look, et cetera, to get that set up for a bid package, et cetera.
Isn't it the Legion that really apply for it on behalf of the Legion?
They're going to provide the match.
They're going to match.
Going to match.
They're going to apply the match.
Right. I'm under the impression, although I don't know for certain, that they believe that they've got the money secured, but that's...
Yeah, I think we'll be successful in the grant. Yeah, but, it's going to be bid, John, I guess, if you put out the public bid, so we have to get, throwing some, bid package materials, designs, et cetera.
Right. And the expectation is this isn't going to be done in time for this Memorial Day. There's no way.
No, I don't know.
It's a comment to Mayor Council. I was speaking to Mr. Adam Strobel before. The anticipated grant agreement should come out midway through the year, so there'll be some sort of delay there. That's a normal process. The freeholders need to approve it, and the regular letters of intent For new applications this year should be roughly April or May 1st.
So it'll be more like a summer-fall project than for us, construction project, yeah.
So we're not going to get notified formally until mid-year?
I'm sorry, how do you know we're going to get it, or you're confident about it, or how?
I'm confident we should get the money, yes. I'm pretty confident with the money, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The field was already approved, I think.
No, not yet.
This hasn't, yeah, that's right, that's the other, that we had around the field, yes, right. Yes, sir.
Just have a question. So, the band shell grant, so the beach and park grant. I'm on chair of the Access to All Committee, and one of the things that we have to do is create more access for disabled residents in town. And we had our meeting last night, and one of the things we talked about was possibly a blue playground for children with autism. Other children can play on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way to include, it doesn't have to be that, but include some sort of access or accessibility for people with...
We did that, Councilman. We actually, the application we put in for Community Development Block Grant for next year is specifically that, to make the playground accessible. Because we are doing that, some of our playgrounds now, we do it, include accessible equipment for the children.
So now, is that for this grant right here, or is it?
That's separate. We already have money in hand, the $45,000, we already got that in hand. This is a separate grant that we've applied for. So it includes access ways from the parking area into the park and equipment as well.
I think
And
it's
also,
best,
I'm sorry,
in regards to that grant, I think it's best if we have a discussion, either in a subcommittee or different meetings to discuss that.
did we apply for it though, or is it?
Correct, they recommend that we have a discussion.
Okay.
But we applied for it.
We did.
We did apply for it, yes.
Okay.
We're trying to make it accessible, yes. So it's a good initiative, Councilman, it's a good initiative. That's, one other thing, yes, today we had some sewage backups, that's what I do, at the firehouse, and today we did run a camera through the pipe over there. That pipe goes back to 1950s, and John, it really needs to get replaced. It's got two bellies in it, and they've had a lot of backups in it, and, et cetera. So we're going to recommend, budget this year, you put some money aside to replace that sewer line. It's also connected to the ambulance corps as well.
Okay.
If you saw the inside of that pipe, you wouldn't believe what it looks like. It's like a spooky movie, because it's just so corroded, the cast iron is so corroded. That pipe.
Most pipes are like that.
The new ones are kind of nice and green inside, so this one is more spooky than others.
All right.
Anyway, that's a technical term.
Any further questions for our engineer? All right, well, thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Councilor.
All right. Moving to the committee reports. Let's go in the order that they're listed here. Councilman DeRosa.
Okay, Regional Board of Education met last night, the Milestones apartment in Hillsdale for the 18 to 20-year-olds special needs youth that the region is responsible for educating has been approved by the borough. On the sports side, the girls basketball player Brianna Wong reached 1,000 points. Too many players hit that. And their hockey goalie, Stephen Brennan, hit 2,500 career saves here in Athlete of the Week. Next Tuesday's meeting, Mayor and Council will recognize Jeff Jasper for his 1,000 career win earlier last month. The local Board of Education meets once a month. They have not met since our last meeting. I was not able to make the ambulance services last meeting because of a council meeting conflict. However, I want to remind everybody that there is an beefsteak dinner, a night of the races, and a turkey tray February 17th at the Washington Township Knights of Columbus from 7 to 11. Tickets are $45 per person, and the proceeds go as far as helping for ambulance services, including Hillsdale.
And that's run by Unico, just for the...
Yes.
Yeah, the Westwood Unico chapter.
The Rec Commission met. They are revising some plans and thoughts on updates to Memorial Field and talking about applying for a grant next go-around for that. Happy to report that bagpipe band has been secured for the Memorial Day Parade. The Rutgers safety class, which is required by anybody who wants to coach any sport, actually in the state of New Jersey, but certainly in Hillsdale. That class is being given in Hillsdale on February 12th. That's rather convenient, so if you are a Hillsdale resident and want to coach and don't have that certification, which is a one and done, you're good for your lifetime, that's February 12th here. Information is on the website for that. We're also, Rec Commission is also, Parks and Recreation Commission is also awaiting information as far as a mobile fingerprinting unit to come here to Hillsdale. Usually you have to go to either Paramus or further out to get that. If we can get more than 40 residents to attend that, they will come, sign up ahead of time, they will come here and do it. Pretty convenient for the residents. Again, that's required to coach any sport in Hillsdale. And the Parks and Recreation Director had an excellent suggestion that Parks and Recreation should really be meeting regularly with the DPW because of the intertwining of responsibilities, and also they're going to set that up. And that concludes what I have.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. Councilman Horvath.
This is the Hillsdale Historic Preservation Committee report. The first regular meeting of the Hillsdale Historic Preservation Committee will take place on February 7th at the Borough Hall at 7 p.m. I also have a report on the Department of Public Works. The DPW Superintendent Dave O'Rourke left Hillsdale employed on February 3rd, 2018, and consequently Hillsdale is in the process of interviewing to fill the vacant position. In the interim, Hillsdale has retained the services of an expert consulting firm to oversee the usual and efficient operations of the DPW. My next report is on the Senior Citizens Report. The monthly luncheon, our next luncheon is February 21st at St. John's Parish Center. They will be serving lemon chicken, vegetable risotto, Caesar salad, cake and coffee. Speakers, Foundation Physical Therapy. January luncheon was canceled due to snow. Not many people were very unhappy due to that. Music with Mark Wright. Next luncheon, March 21st. You can call Patty Hughes at 201-497-1560 for reservations. Hot lunch and bingo will be served at the Holy Trinity Church the first, second, fourth Tuesday of each month from 10:30 to 1:30 p.m. Call Lee at 201-664-1519 for reservation. The bus was out of service last week, needed to replace the alternator. Bus is older and in need of repairs. The 50 Plus Club, the first and fourth Thursday of each month are the meetings, February and the 22nd from 12 to 1:45 p.m. at the United Methodist Church. They will be conducting a trip with Montfield seniors May 20th, 27th, Bermuda cruise, flyers in the lobby. That's my report for that. I'm also in the process of reconstituting the Chamber of Commerce. I've spoken to quite a number of businesses and individuals in town, and it looks very promising. It's just a question of working out the details and launching it. So we're on the way.
And my understanding is someone in the business community has to step forward to be
Yes, I have someone
the catalyst.
Yes, I have someone who wants to spearhead it. So it's just a question of organizing X number of people, getting them together here in Town Hall or wherever else they want to meet, and doing business as should be done.
Okay.
That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Zoltan. Councilman Karsich.
Mayor, this might be duplicate, but I just wanted to thank the police department again for just the great service they provide to our residents. There was a study that came out from the National Council of Home Safety and Security, and it ranked Hillsdale number 7 out of all the towns in New Jersey that were over 10,000 residents or more. So, Chief, job well done. Matt, job well done.
But he said we were number 3.
No, that's in the U.S. Wait, that was New Jersey, right?
This is up in New Jersey.
Number 3 is actually in the U.S.
Well, how can we be 3 in the U.S. and 7 in New Jersey?
Probably best.
There's something not right about that.
All I know is the guys are doing a good job. They're in the top 10.
That's true.
At our last council meeting, the mayor asked the police committee to look at our overnight parking ordinance. This was a request from a resident who sent in a letter. The committee unanimously agreed with the consent of the chief that our current ordinance is more than accurate. And the police chief also requested our committee to have a meeting with him to discuss the SRO position at Patrick Valley High School. I know the chief, Officer Hampton, and the mayor recently went up to the Board of Ed to kind of plead the case around that. So the committee meeting is going to be...
And Councilman DeRosa was...
Councilman DeRosa. The committee meeting is going to be circled around what was said at the Board of Ed office. We're going to look at budget dollars and what we can try to do. And that's what I have, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Councilwoman Lundy?
I'll be very brief because none of my committees have met yet. I will vote on them next week.
Do you have anything else to say on that library situation, the delivery of the books, other than what we've been reading in the paper?
I anticipate finding more out on Monday.
Yeah, it sounds dire.
Yeah, it does.
It sounds dire, and there's no apparent quick solution for the library to grab onto. They're at the mercy, yeah.
So maybe the residents want to be aware that there is an issue with transporting books back and forth, or media back and forth from all of the Buckles libraries, and they're working on it.
Yeah, and I think our library director had said, if you're desperate for a book that the library here in Hillsdale doesn't have, but they can identify it as being somewhere else, you probably want to go to that library yourself, because the company that was hired to move the books from Library A to Library B is not prepared. They've defaulted on the contract, even though they just started the business, I think, January 1st, or the beginning of the year. And this is going to be, as I like to say, a classic case for MBA students in a year as to how not to go about starting when you're changing your vendor. So a lot is going to come out in the future, and I know residents are affected by this directly because our library interacts with more residents probably than even Town Hall does. So stay tuned. Councilman Segalis is not here. Council President Pizzella.
I have, I'm going to wait until next week to do my report, but I have several questions to ask. On the Economic Development Committee, I just wanted to know where we are with the bids for the planners.
Your queues are received on February 1st.
Okay, so at our next meeting, will we be able to start going through them?
You go through them anytime you want.
Okay. And then the same thing with...
They'll be sent around. They'll be sent electronically over the next day or two to the committee.
Because our next economic redevelopment meeting is next Monday.
This coming Monday. Yeah, so John, those have to be sent out. You want them in time several days before, right?
Well, yeah, I want to be able to discuss them and come back with a recommendation for council.
Yeah.
Same thing with the train station. And we're going to discuss the train station architect too, right, John?
I spoke to New Jersey Transit the other day, and our contact is away for a couple of days once he returns. I spoke to Jeff Mandel first, and then I reached out to
All right, so we can talk about it in committee. I thought maybe, okay.
Is that taken up by the Economic Development Committee or separately, Frank? That be at the train?
Economic Development Committee. And then also, I had a question from the Environmental Commission. Some of the members of the Environmental Commission were asking about the forestry grant, and they saw that in the agenda you are signing the agreement, but I believe that's part of the application, correct, John?
No, that's the grant agreement is to execute the funding for that. We did the application a couple of weeks ago.
I know, but
luckily funding became a lot sooner than...
So it came quick. So did we get the actual grant for...
Correct, $3,000 for the $3,000 match.
Okay, because he wanted to know why I didn't know that.
And just so, and stop me if I'm wrong, John, but the grant that we got, $3,000, is to fund a forestry study. That money allows us to pay an arborist to produce the forestry plan.
It's also going to let us address the ash.
That's what I was getting to. So within that forestry plan will be proposals, recommendations as to how to deal with the emerald ash borer situation.
Right, and how,
right.
And we're addressing, remember, Mayor, that we're addressing public property. We're addressing only public property.
Good point. Right, because we're not going to be addressing the emerald ash borers on private residences.
Right, and we also have to deal with the fact that the DPW superintendent was the certified person. So I don't know if you, did the individual from the Environmental Commission get back to you, John, about his interest in
I have not discussed it at length. I provided the links to the...
Okay, I saw that you provided, okay.
So you're awaiting response back from the EC?
No,
This is a
there was
little more
an
in-depth, I think,
individual,
you
there was an
probably need.
individual who was interested in getting that certification for that grant. And I
Okay.
just put them, see, my committees haven't met yet, and so I'm checking with John to see if anything happens.
Okay. But the point you're raising is Dan, our prior DPW chairman, had that qualification. He is gone.
We now need 2 people. We only needed 1 more, now we need 2.
2. And one, we have a volunteer from an EC, and where was the second one? Mike come from?
Employee.
An employee, okay,
We do have time for that, though. It's not required that they...
It's not required to get the grant, okay.
okay.
We do
Fair
have
enough.
really roughly a 1 year, but that's all part of the forester going over the plan for us.
Right. And the ordinance committee, I'm not the chair of the ordinance committee, but I'm on the ordinance committee. And I believe that if the ordinances are not on the agenda this time
They will
because
be
they're not provided 5 days in advance.
Right, they came in Monday, and as it turns out, Stephen and I, Stephen Segalis, Councilman Segalis, the chair of the ordinance committee, and Mr. Joseph and I had conversations with Anthony Merlino today, which led to other questions being raised. I think Stephen is working on that. So in effect, it turned out to be maybe a good thing that it wasn't introduced tonight, because I think there was still a little more reaction from borough professionals about it, and Stephen is trying to address that and then resubmit or give it to the clerk so that it goes in by Friday, because Friday is really the deadline for...
Okay, and then we're going to do the tree ordinance after that.
Yeah, if you, assuming that you can,
Yeah.
yeah.
Last question. Mark, I know we went back and forth this week about setting up a time to talk about how to address the multifamily,
Yes,
the
indeed.
illegal or non-conforming multifamily issue. You got back to me, I asked Tony if he was available on Thursday. Can we please meet so we can,
Sure, just let me...
maybe you and I tackle it, and then we go,
Sure.
do we need Tony there?
I don't think so. I
I
would
think it'd be worthwhile having, as a zoning official, having theirs provide
Okay.
input.
What days are Tony?
He's only here
Tuesdays
Tuesdays and
or-
Thursdays.
Okay, so this
We'll try for
Thursday
this
morning I
Thursday.
have a meeting
Okay.
at 9, but maybe we could do any other Tuesday or Thursday.
All right, I'll
We'll
set
all
it.
get here like first thing.
You want to do it on a call, or do you want to?
No, let's get
All right.
together. I think it's always better if we're looking at a document and talking to each other.
Okay.
I feel better about that.
And just for the public to know, this is, we're trying to address the non-conforming or grandfathered in multifamily dwellings that are in and around town, being that Hillsdale is not supposed to really have any two-family houses. Sometimes we have 4, 5, and even 6. So we're trying to figure out a mechanism by which we can figure out where they are and how to address them. Are they being taxed properly? If they're not, they need to be. How to get them into conformance, how to get them, if they've been grandfathered in, but they don't have any documentation, how to get that documentation in place so that they're right on the books.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Before I go on to the next item, there was a question I should have asked when Councilman DeRosa was making his report. Are we making any progress on the development of the criteria for the recognition? Your ideas came to fruition in the form of a recognition subcommittee, which is part of Zoltan, if I remember right, our town historic preservation and recognition. Okay. We're making progress on...
I have made several attempts to get the 3 council people together, and
Scheduled problem.
By the end of this meeting, I will have commitment from all 3
Okay.
to hopefully meet tomorrow.
Okay, good.
Is tomorrow the historic preservation meeting, or is
7
it,
o'clock,
or is it the meeting on that?
6:30.
Okay,
Not for nothing, but why are we working out schedules in a public meeting? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not working on a schedule. I'm asking if the Historic Preservation Committee is tomorrow, because I didn't get notice of it. And I'm on that committee.
okay.
Sean sent out an email the other day. I believe your name was on it.
Okay, well, that can be, let's not wait,
The other day,
yeah,
yeah.
we can deal with that offline, so,
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean that disrespect towards you.
New business? None, or someone has something to bring up? Correspondence, we have a letter dated January 12th, 2018, from J.M. Flanagan in regards to a property issue. A motion to receipt and file?
Motion.
A second?
Second.
Roll call? All in favor? All in favor?
Actually, can I abstain?
Okay.
Recuse.
Okay. So, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstain? One. Thank you. Email received January 24th, 2018, from Rosemary D'Alessandro requesting permission to put a fountain in the White Butterfly Garden near the train station. A motion to receipt and file.
Motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None. Okay. Good. Letter submitted January 24th, 2018, from Bert Simpson in regards to a number of issues. Motion to receipt and file.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Discussion. Frank, this gets to a point that you had raised. I think you had asked for clarification on the use of funds for the replanting of trees. I mean, this came through from the EC.
Yeah, I had asked Mark if he could provide clarity on what the tree bank fund
That's
is for.
right.
And he did that.
Okay. Yeah. And just so that we...
I believe, Frank, and again, I don't have it in front of me, but I felt that it was for replacement, and that...
Not maintenance.
And yes, that there was no reason I would think it would be maintenance. In fact, there's really nothing in the ordinance which... just one moment. There was nothing in the ordinance which would suggest to me that maintenance was really ever contemplated for that. The word
Okay.
replacement is in the ordinance 25 times or something like that, and the word maintenance is not in the ordinance.
Okay.
Basic.
More or less. I mean, it's pretty basic.
Okay.
Has to replace trees.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor, just for some clarity on all these letters that we had receipt and file, just because we motion to receive them does not mean we agree with the contents of everything that the residents are
Correct. Yes.
requesting, because some of these are very meaty letters in there, and I just wanted to put that out there.
Right, so for, the first two, for example, are undergoing some follow-up. You're right, you're
Simply
absolutely correct.
acknowledging receipt.
Receipt, right.
And
Right.
that's it.
We can move on to, public, well, one thing on discussion before I move on, because this is probably the proper place, for me to raise it. Yesterday, there was a meeting of mayors down in Teaneck. About 20 mayors, 25 mayors, came together at the request of the new governor. The governor then stayed with us for about an hour. He was accompanied by the county executive, Jim Tedesco. We all thank the governor and his staff for listening. Mayor Tomasco, Paul Tomasco of Alpine, did an excellent job of summarizing issues that he felt that the governor needed to hear, concerns of the mayors around the county, regardless of political affiliation. He stressed the 2% arbitration cap and how much distress the absence, the expiration of this cap is causing to mayors, because it will have a direct effect on our budget. He also brought up the accrual of sick leave by police, which Paul described somewhat as like a bombshell for municipalities. You see some of the articles that are in the paper about police payouts at the end of their career. He brought up the Senate Bill S-5. And this is, again, an issue with the firemen and police retirement system. This is a bill which basically transfers the majority of the board that is responsible for administering these pension funds from the state to the unions. And that has caused a great amount of opposition by the New Jersey League of Municipalities, although the Senate, I think the Senate seems to have approved it almost unanimously. So there seems to be quite a lot of either misunderstanding or on one side or the other. So there's going to be more discussion on that, I'm sure. Paul also raised to the governor the affordable housing dilemma, how the risk that we're facing as communities present drastic changes to the fabric of our municipalities, how fair share housing should not be playing such a large role in this, how the legislature has to replace the courts in the administration of this process, and also to the mayor's credit, he raised the issue of the governor and his wife as being contributors to the Fair Share Housing Corporation, and how that does not come across well to the mayors and their residents. Mayor Berkner raised the issue of flooding and desnagging the brook. I agreed with him on this point, so we were viewed as almost like a tandem between himself and me, and it was Mayor Lamatina and Emerson. I raised the waste management issue with the governor. He took notes. I had his attention for about 4 or 5 minutes, and we hopefully will get some reaction from his staff in the future on this. The governor said that as far as he's concerned, he's taking steps to counter the elimination of the SALT federal tax deduction. He talked briefly about that, and he talked about the concept of this charitable trust, although there seemed to be a lot of skepticism in the mayor's audience about whether this is ever going to get off the ground or not. But that was the results. I thought I'd just report back to you in terms of what that governor's meeting. And it was called very suddenly. I found out about it last Friday, and I was offered the ability to come down on Monday, and I took advantage of it. So it was good. So public comment. We'll go into the public comment period. Let's open the meeting up to any public comment. Please come to the podium and say your name and address. I know you.
I think you all do. Good evening to everyone. I'm Elizabeth Ward. I live at 47 East Liberty Avenue here in Hillsdale. And even though we have cold temperatures and forecast of snow or sleet tonight, I'm here to talk a little bit about the Hillsdale summer concerts, as they require quite a bit of advanced planning. Just to bring you up to date, last year we had 9 concerts. We start them the Wednesday after 4th of July. We had 8 regular dates and then 1 special concert on a Friday night for younger audiences. Along with the concerts, we've been promoting a community table with flyers on events going on in town. This could be the National Night Out or the Jones Joy Garden event, etc. We also have made it a practice of collecting for different charities. We had a special collection going last summer for Mike Villegas, a member of the ambulance squad who was seriously injured in an accident. And then we accept at every concert non-perishable food items and cash donations for the Hillsdale Helping Hand Food Pantry. And we, for years, have been inviting the food sponsors to set up food in the park, come down and sell sandwiches, ice cream, whatever they want. And finally, I'm happy to report that we had one sponsor, Della Cucina, come down. And they were selling pizzas by the slice or whole pies and Italian ices. And they really set it up very nicely. We called it the Pizza Cafe in the park. Quite sure they'll be back, and perhaps a few of the other businesses will join them. Now, rather than forge ahead, I figured I would see if it's your pleasure that I run the concerts again. And if it is, my intention would be to start on July 11th. July 4th happens to fall on a Wednesday, so the concerts are pushed back basically a week, and run them through August 22nd. Again, Wednesday nights with the alternate rain night being Thursday. And we would run them in Veterans Park, as we have been doing, I guess it's about the past 6 or so years. And Zoltan, it was very interesting to hear about your plan for the Chamber of Commerce, because we've done some business-friendly events. We've had 2 years of New Business Night, businesses 2 years and under, They've been invited to come down, these are the sponsors, invited to come down and have a table and meet and greet concert goers, and we've had articles in Pascat Press and Community Life on those events, as well as then Family Fun Night, which is probably our biggest night of the summer with 2 concerts, 6 o'clock, a children's entertainer, and 7:30, it will be again, the North Jersey Concert Band. We get really big attendance. And it seems that everyone's, ready to look towards summer, because I have previous sponsors and then new and returning bands contacting me, as well as the Recreation Department. So that's where we are.
So let me just ask the council, the dates work, any reason that you would want to tell Elizabeth those dates don't work? And what about the venue? Any reason you'd want to change the venue? No? Abby, you have this quizzical. Yeah, I raise it because 1 or 2 residents have asked what our plans are for the band shell. I mean, they seem to have been successful at the middle of town.
I think so. I mean, a few people laugh and they say, "Oh, here comes the train." I mean, you've been there, and no sooner do we start, and usually within the first 5-10 minutes, the train goes by, and we usually tell the bands, some of them break into some type of a train song or so, and we carry them. But I think the lighting is good there. You don't really get, so many mosquitoes. The parking is better, and you just happen to capture some extra people that are getting off the train or the bus, or they're running into center of town to do an errand, and it's like, music in the park, and, they stop by for the concerts.
Also benefits a lot of the businesses in the area.
Most definitely.
Yeah, so that's a great reason for it. There's a lot of ambiance to it. It's a lot more convenient. It makes the town seem a little bit more homey.
I think so. And even the businesses, we've asked, and they do come down for Family Fun Night and New Business Night. But in terms of selling food, you have businesses that will give me coupons. And, we'll make them available on the community table, or we'll say, well, tonight's concert is sponsored by so-and-so and so-and-so. And, come on up and get your coupon. It's, good through the end of concert season. So they may not be physically present, all of the sponsors, but a lot of them behind the scenes are doing things to promote their business.
You're doing a great job.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So I look forward to working with you. We can have some outreach to more businesses.
Absolutely. It's one of the things I'll be discussing with them.
Very good.
Elizabeth, any chance to get ice cream sold in the park itself?
I'll work on that. I'd love to. I was approached by an ice cream truck, and they did come down a couple times. I must have the contact at home. I'll approach the ice creamery again.
Yeah.
They are a sponsor.
Right. I wouldn't want to harm the on basis
Exactly
of their business. But there always seems to be a line outside their establishment, and customers are not served because they're turned away because they can't get there in time.
That's true, and the music's going on. We have a 10-15 intermission. I mean, we encourage people to go across the street and pick up some snacks, pick up some ice cream. But you're right, the line is often long, and not everyone is served. Then they come back, and they're a bit unhappy. So maybe we've had some ideas that we've shared with them. We'll try again. Maybe we can rectify it.
And as for your first question as to whether we would want you and Marty to run the program, I'm looking for the long line of volunteers who would want to take your place. I don't see any out the door. So again, unless someone has an objection.
Go ahead and forward, please.
All right, thank you. So that means...
You do a great job, Elizabeth.
Thank you very much.
It's been a very
So God
successful.
willing then, we all have a date, 7:30,
July 11th.
July 11th, in Veterans Park.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, so moving to ordinances for introduction. So we have ordinance 1804, an ordinance establishing recreation department program and summer camp fees for the year 2018 in the Borough of Hillsdale. Read it then, Mark? Are we going? Okay. Be it resolved that ordinance number 18-04 does now pass the first reading, and that ordinance be further considered for final passage at a meeting of the mayor and council in the municipal building, 380 Hillsdale Avenue, Hillsdale, New Jersey, on March 13th, 2018. and that at said time and place, all persons interested will be given an opportunity to be heard concerning the same, and the clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance in the Ridgewood News once, at least 1 week prior to said hearing, with a notice of its introduction and of the time and place when and where said ordinance would be considered for final passage. Do I have a motion to introduce?
Motion to introduce.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Horvath?
Yes.
Councilmember Carstens?
Yes.
Councilmember Lundy,
Yes.
Councilmember Segales? Council President Pizzella?
Yes.
Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 1805 for introduction, an ordinance establishing 2018 salaries for the Recreation Department. Be it resolved that ordinance number 18-05 does now pass the first reading, and that said ordinance be further considered for final passage at a meeting of the Mayor and Council in the Municipal Building, 380 Hillsdale Avenue, Hillsdale, New Jersey, on March 13, 2018, and at said time and place, all persons interested will be given an opportunity to be heard concerning the same, and the clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance in the Ridgewood News once, at least 1 week prior to said hearing, with a notice of its introduction and of the time and place when and where said ordinance would be considered for final passage. Do I have a motion?
Motion to introduce.
Have a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Horvath?
Yes.
Councilmember Carstens?
Yes.
Councilmember Lundy,
Yes.
Councilmember Segales? Council President Pizzella?
Yes.
Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
Ordinance 1806 for introduction, an ordinance of the Borough of Hillsdale, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, to amend Chapter 264 of the Borough Code entitled Swimming Pools, Private, and Section 138-9 Fees. Be it resolved that ordinance number 1806 does now pass a first reading, and that said ordinance be further considered for final passage at a meeting of the Mayor and Council in the Municipal Building, 380 Hillsdale Avenue, Hillsdale, New Jersey, on March 13, 2018. And at said time and place, all persons interested will be given an opportunity to be heard concerning the same, and the clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance in the Ridgewood News once, at least 1 week prior to said hearing, with a notice of its introduction and of the time and place when and where said ordinance would be considered for final passage.
Motion introduction.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Carstens?
Yes.
Councilmember Lundy,
Yes.
Councilmember Segales? Council President Pizzella?
Yes.
Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Horvath?
Yes.
This is for adoption, because it was introduced at a prior council meeting. It's 1801. This is an ordinance to release, vacate, and extinguish any and all public rights in and to a portion of Knickerbocker Avenue in the Borough of Hillsdale, subject to certain easements. For anyone listening, this is the street that is just south of the PSE&G upgraded station, which this council decided last year to basically perform this action, and it's necessary in order for PSE&G to complete its operations. So, motion to open the public, please.
Motion to open up public hearing on ordinance 1801.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Or roll call we need on this? Roll call.
Councilmember Horvath?
Yes.
Councilmember Carstens?
Yes.
Councilmember Lundy,
Yes.
Councilmember Segales? Council President Pizzella?
Yes.
Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
Okay, I will now open the meeting to the public. If anyone desires to be heard regarding ordinance 18-01, please raise your hand and be recognized. Come forward to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. I see no one. I entertain a motion that the public hearing on ordinance number 1801 be closed, and that it be resolved that this ordinance was posted on the bulletin board on which public notices are customarily posted and published in the Ridgewood News. Copies of said ordinance were made available to the general public. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this ordinance be adopted, and that the acting clerk is authorized to advertise the same according to law. A motion to close.
Motion to close public hearing on
No.
1801.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lundy,
Yes.
Councilmember Segales? Council President Pizzella? Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Horvath?
Yes.
Councilmember Carstens?
Yes.
Okay. Now we have a motion to adopt the ordinance 1801.
Motion to adopt ordinance 1801.
Second, somewhere?
Second.
Okay. Roll call.
Councilmember Carstens?
Yes.
Councilmember Lundy,
Yes.
Councilmember Segales? Council President Pizzella?
Yes.
Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Horvath?
Yes.
Okay. Next, ordinance 18-02. This is also up for adoption. An ordinance to amend and supplement ordinance 09-01, Chapter 138, Fees, and Chapter 71, Swimming Pool Commission.
Motion to open public hearing on 1802.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Horvath?
Yes.
Councilmember Carstens?
Yes.
Councilmember Lundy,
Yes.
Councilmember Segales? Council President Pizzella?
Yes.
Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
Okay, I'll now open the meeting to the public. If anyone desires to be heard regarding the ordinance 18-02, please raise your hand, be recognized, and come forward to the microphone. State your name and address for the record. Okay, not seeing anyone, I entertain a motion that the public hearing on ordinance number 18-02 be closed, and that it be resolved that this ordinance was posted on the bulletin board on which public notices are customarily posted and published in the Ridgewood News. Copies of said ordinance were made available to the general public. Now therefore be it resolved that this ordinance be adopted, and the acting clerk is authorized to advertise the same according to law. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close public hearing, ordinance 1802.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Lundy,
Yes.
Councilmember Sodales? Council President Pizzella?
Yes.
Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Horvath?
Yes.
Councilmember Carson?
Now I need a motion to adopt the ordinance 18-02.
Motion to adopt 1802.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Carson?
Yes.
Councilmember Lundy,
Yes.
Councilmember Sodales? Council President Pizzella?
Yes.
Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Horvath?
Yes.
Okay. Moving to 18-03, an ordinance for adoption. An ordinance establishing salaries for the staff of the Hillsdale Swimming Pool Commission for the current year 2018 in the Borough of Hillsdale, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion to open public hearing at 1803.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Horvath?
Yes.
Councilmember Carson?
Yes.
Councilmember Lundy,
Yes.
Councilmember Sodales? Council President Pizzella?
Yes.
Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
So I will now open the meeting to the public. If anyone desires to be heard regarding ordinance 18-03, please raise your hand to be recognized. Come forward to the microphone. State your name and address for the record. Not seeing anyone, I entertain a motion that the public hearing on ordinance 18-03 be closed, that it be resolved that this ordinance was posted on the bulletin board on which public notices are customarily posted and published in the Ridgewood News. Copies of said ordinance were made available to the general public. Now therefore be it resolved that this ordinance be adopted, and the acting clerk is authorized to advertise the same according to law. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing on this
Motion
ordinance?
to close public hearing on ordinance 1803.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Lundy,
Yes.
Councilmember Sodales? Council President Pizzella? Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Horvath?
Yes.
Councilmember Carson?
Yes.
Now do I have a motion to adopt the ordinance 1803?
Motion to adopt 1803.
Second.
Okay, second.
Councilmember Carson?
Yes.
Councilmember Lundy,
Yes.
Councilmember Sodales? Council President Pizzella? Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Horvath?
Yes.
Okay. We have nothing on the off-consent agenda. We do have resolutions on the consent agenda. I'll read them one by one. If anyone wants them pulled, just tell me at the end, I guess. We have R 18040, Municipal Alliance Grant, Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, Fiscal Grant Cycle, July 2014 to July 2019. R 18041, resolution authorizing a shared service agreement between the Borough of Hillsdale and the Northwest Bergen Utilities Authority for sanitary sewer cleaning. R 18042, resolution authorizing a shared service agreement between the Borough of Hillsdale and the Northwest Bergen County Utilities Authority for TV inspection of sewers. R 18043, resolution recommending the hiring of part-time police dispatcher Justin Pisano. R 18044, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into and sign a grant agreement with the state of New Jersey, the DEP, the New Jersey FS Urban and Communities Forestry Program Green Communities Grant. R 18045, resolution increasing the contract price for the 2017 road program, which is a change order, the first change order. R 18046, resolution designating drivers for the Borough of Hillsdale. R 18047, resolution approving mutual fund agreement between the Borough of Hillsdale Fire Department and the Borough of Oradell Fire Department. R 18048, resolution authorizing the appointment of John DeJoseph as acting recycling coordinator for the Borough of Hillsdale. Does anyone need any one of these pulled?
Can we pull 18048? I just have a couple questions.
Which one, Abby?
18048.
18048, okay.
They can have the same question.
Okay. Anyone, any others? No. Okay. So with the exception of 18048, shall we vote on we can vote on the...
Absolutely.
Okay.
The consent agenda, absent absent resolution 18048, is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lundy,
Yes.
Councilmember Sodales? Council President Pizzella?
Yes.
Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Horvath?
Yes.
Councilmember Carpenter?
Yes.
Okay, so all those passed. Now we go on to R 18048, which was pulled. So, Abby, you pulled it,
Yes,
and
Anthony,
Anthony.
I pulled that.
Yeah, you had a question.
Just for clarification, this is being done because our current DPW superintendent, who is was the recycling coordinator, has left. We need to fill the spot. And until such time as we hire a new superintendent, that Jonathan Joseph is filling in until we have a new superintendent.
Correct, and it came with, our prior superintendent, I think, was compensated in a monthly stipend on that. Again, this is just prorated, until we get a new DPW superintendent, and it's a stopgap measure.
I guess, okay, that wasn't my question, Anthony.
Okay.
So,
Abby?
I guess the question is more about the position of the recycling coordinator. I know that there are reports that have to be prepared. How often are they prepared? Is it something that's quarterly?
That's the concern, that's why I requested this to be on the agenda. The annual report is due April 30th, so that's the time of the essence of this, so it needs to be prepared. All the information needs to be gathered by the vendors. There's a training session, I think, February, roughly 21st is the date of another training session coming up to get the paperwork prepared.
Of February?
Yes. So that's why time is the essence. This is where we get $18,000 back per year roughly.
And then you would prepare the report and then the BCA signs off on it?
Right. I'm not certified as a recycling professional, so it's not something I want to do. I don't have the extra time to do it, but to benefit the borough, we need to get it in. That's the problem. We have a resolution coming on either for the next meeting or in March certifying how much tax we paid last year. That's all the requirements of the grant.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that one? Okay, so now the proper order is to call for a motion.
18048.
Second.
Boy, you guys are really on top of things now. You're really moving along.
It's 11 o'clock.
Okay, so we had a motion, we had a second. Roll call on this.
Councilmember Lundy,
Yes.
Council President Pizzella?
Abstain.
Councilmember Horvath?
Yes.
Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Carpenter?
Yes.
Councilmember Zagales?
Okay. Council commentaries. We started with, it doesn't matter. Abby, we'll start with you. Right to left.
All right. Again, I'm going to be very brief tonight, but I would like to again thank the emergency service personnel who helped out in that horrific accident. And that's all I have tonight. I'll get you next week. I won't shut up.
Council President Pizzella.
I would just like to encourage everybody on council to provide input regarding waste management, and I think we all need to work together on that. And I don't really have anything else to say. I'm saving my reports for next week, and I'll save my comments for next week as well.
Okay. Councilman DeRosa.
Just to piggyback on Councilman Pizzella, it was disappointing that Waste Management has seemed to have started operations in some way, shape, or form. So, as Council President said, it'll be important for all of us to kind of pitch in to continue to fight them. I did want to congratulate the borough, the chief, and the department for that third safest small-town community in the U.S. designation. Also want to thank Dan O'Rourke for the time that he served. It's sad to see him go, but he's leaving for a good opportunity, and I hope it works out for him. I do want to thank all the EMS who responded to that accident, as the chief said. Chief's being kind of humble. Officers Alex Kaplan and Matt Buster put out a fire with their fire extinguishers before I think Westwood was able to come in and assist, and the fire department got there, and ambulance corps got there. So it's a great rescue and a great pitching in by everybody. And in all the thank yous and congratulations that we did at reorg, I neglected to mention the borough attorney. I consider a great resource to all of us, and it's seldom I make an important decision without taking your opinion under advisement. I may not always follow it, but I do value it, and that's all I have.
Councilman Horvath.
I would just like to thank Chief Francaviglia and Captain Sean Smith for completing Part 2 of their Veterans Program. We went around today and gave out plaques of commendation to the Korean War veterans that we didn't get to on Veterans Day, and I think it's just a wonderful community outreach program. They're also planning to do the Vietnam War veterans on Veterans Day, so I would also like to thank Commander Phil Langner for participating in this effort. It's just a wonderful thing to see the police department interacting with the community in so many ways. And this is just one of the small things that they don't get enough recognition for.
Were you able to reach the ones that we weren't able to reach in the fall?
We were able to reach but one.
But one. Good.
But generally was successful. We had a couple people stand in for the ones that weren't there because of illness,
Right,
or
right.
hospital or other locations, but it's just a wonderful program.
Okay.
This is one of the reasons we're one of the best communities in America. Was that number 3? Number 3.
Councilman Korsich.
The one thing I wanted to talk briefly about, because I've had a couple of residents pull me and ask me about this, is this politicians floating this idea of this charitable trust with their property taxes. The whole thing is kind of nonsense, because there's no way we as a municipality is going to enforce this. Your property tax is not a charity donation, it's a tax. And this is all because all federal officials didn't do their jobs in protecting New Jersey and Hillsdale in a new tax bill. Also, as we've seen lately, our state legislators have no intent on helping municipalities reduce our property taxes. The simple solution that the state legislature could do is rebalance the aid that we get on education back from the state. Bergen County spends the most tax dollars back to Trenton. We get nothing in return. I mean, we get a pittance back per student. If they would just maybe double that, which is not a lot of money, it would go a long way. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay.
I'd just like to comment on that also. It was also in today's news that the prepayment that they made in the taxes is probably going to be for naught.
For the third and fourth quarters.
Exactly.
Right.
So they're not going to get...
Right. I don't want to alarm as I'm not a tax consultant. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to advise anyone on taxes. But it does appear that the IRS may question anyone who prepaid for the third and fourth, and that's because the third and fourth were not billed by we were not billed.
Our residents to only pay what was billed.
We advised no one.
Suggested.
We only informed residents of what we were reading in the paper, and after that, we gave no advice whatsoever on tax matters. I just want to also let residents know on a couple of fronts to pick up what Councilman Korsich said. Yes, I think that the charitable trust idea isn't going to eventually survive because of the reasons that you alluded to. But if perchance it does, Hillsdale will offer, I think, this as well. We will give our residents every opportunity to get back through the federal tax deduction if, in fact, this structure is proven by the IRS to be intact and sound. With respect to waste management, you heard it from a couple of council people here. Once the DEP granted the permit, Waste Management took it upon itself to slowly start up operations there. They're at a low level right now. This council, certainly the mayor, has no intention of laying down and playing dead with respect to this matter. And in all likelihood, residents will be getting a notice from me in the next week or so with respect to some plans that the council has discussed in terms of trying to prevent this. I wanted to recognize the visit that Yangming High School from Taiwan. They came on a student exchange program. They came to visit the borough. I had the opportunity to explain to them how this council works. They were impressed. Also, they went over to see our police department. I want to thank Mike Camporeal for what his explaining things to the Taiwanese visitors. Gave them a tour of downstairs of our police department, and then Peter Hart took them over to the fire department and gave them a tour of those operations. I also want to thank Zoltan, because he was around to take pictures of the whole event, and I think he shared them. We have an upcoming pedestrian safety campaign, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe the chief, maybe next time you're up on the podium, you can describe that in some broad strokes, Bob. But I think that'll be coming up. Residents will begin to see that, April-ish, May?
Yeah, sometime in April, I think.
Okay. Very important, especially in our downtown area where we have had accidents. We've had people killed in Hillsdale being hit by cars. And with the presence of coffee shops and bagel shops and Saturdays and weekdays in the morning, it can get pretty hectic around here. And if you come down the downtown area and you don't have your eyes open as a pedestrian, you could be running the risk of getting hit. And so this is aimed at pedestrians. And finally, I was told by John Najarian of our Office of Emergency Management, there's a potential for some flooding tomorrow. I'm not sure. It seems to be based on Suez telling us that they will be releasing some water tomorrow, which I don't know why you'd pick a day of a rainstorm to release the water.
I think
Go ahead.
I read that they were releasing it prior to that.
Prior? Okay, well, that's actually what we would want them to do, so.
I think that's what they're doing.
All right.
I was impressed when I read that.
Okay, but I thought I would just alert residents to that fact. And residents have been attuned to a certain standard operating procedure when they know that there's a threat of flooding. So, anyway. I have nothing else to add. Motion to adjourn? Oh, sorry, our Borough Administrator?
Just let the Mayor and Council know, today we opened solid waste collection. Bids, we received 2 bidders, Borough Attorney.
Two?
2. The Borough Attorney and myself are reviewing those over the next couple of days. We anticipate making a recommendation for the award the next Tuesday's meeting. And last week, the landscaping bids were open. We received 3 bids. So again, we anticipate presenting a recommendation for the award in next week's Mayor and Council meeting.
Okay, I can't wait for the garbage bidding. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we're adjourned.